My name is Andy Velasquez, and I had Chapter 7 of Color Law by Richard Rothstein. I can't pronounce his last name. Rothstein. And the chapter is IRS Support and Complaint Regulators. The time period in which this chapter is being told is in the 20th century, which primarily takes place during the 1930s to 1940s, but there is evidence and cases of this happening throughout the 60s, 90s, and even spreads to the early 2000s and 2010. Um, the main argument of the story is just how the IRS and the government and banks were really racist towards African American people, and how white regulators benefited from the minorities being affected by the racism that was just shown just to them, just due to them wanting to live, have their own land, have their own bank accounts, have their own loans, have their own money. It was it was bad. um the banks would give loans to the African Americans because they knew that they were not able to pay off the loans. Um these were called ghetto loans, and big banks that are established today, such as Bank of America and Wells Fargo, were part of this. And employees were racist, as they were racist because they admitted to being racist. Um, Employers said that their employees were racist, and that just shows how many African American people and minorities were just thrown back in the street and homeless. And it's usually around the downtown area of major cities. For example, here in Houston, we do have a large population of homeless people. And segregation is also a really big thing in this chapter. That although segregation is happening after and before, they still find a way to be racist and to be rude and to find loopholes of the Constitution that basically treats African American people fair. Compelling evidence of this is that the IRS has a duty to serve under the Constitution, but in page in page 43, it is stated that yet until 1970 years after Brown versus Board of Education, the IRS granted tax exemptions to private white only academies, which that alone is already violating the Constitution, which says it is not it's not being it's not being fair to American citizens just because of the color of their skin. Um, this fits into what we are learning because we just learned about the civil rights movement a few weeks ago, and how people who just want to be heard are constantly people who want to live in this country are constantly being brought down just because of the color of their skin. People who have died for this country, people who have lived, who built this country, are being put down by the people who take money, from them, who take advantage of them. And it's something that's really horrifying, something that's really terrible, that happens still this day, and it's truly sad. Um, my connections, my thoughts. Mm, this chapter was very interesting, very compelling. I understood it. Explaining it probably not much, but I just want to know where people came from, why people did the things they did, how the IRS was able to do all these things thinking it was fair, although it was clearly racist and unfair to African American people. After everything they have gone through, African American people built this country. Immigrants built this country, and they treated them harshly, and they took advantage of them, and and the government still does nothing to help. And that is my presentation. Thank you.